It's Backyard Conversations, and we're back. We're going to try and give you guys a short and sweet one today, even though there's so much happening in the news. But we're trying to keep it concise, let us know what you think in terms of like feedback. If you want more of these short, like rapid fire style episodes, let's get right into it. Okay, Dapo, there's not necessarily a declaration of war, but there's some kind of chatter, especially at the White House right now, about going into Nigeria regarding genocide against Christians and all the wars happening, especially in the north, in the northeast. What do you say about that?
Um, I mean, there's a lot of back and forth. Some people are speculating that this is some sort of proxy war between the US and China with Nigeria caught in the middle. That is very speculative. The things that are true is that there has been ethno-religious conflict in northern parts of Nigeria for almost 2 decades now, and it has been increasing, and that conflict has been palpably, targeted at Christians in northern and middle belt of Nigeria. Some people have speculated that it's land grabbing, it's mineral resources, it's agriculture, it's herdsmen, all that. But all of that is still like up in the air. The real thing is that people are dying and people are being killed, and it is absolutely wrong. The second aspect is that the Nigerian government has enough resources and ability to put this thing to an end, but they've been lax on it for whatever reason, carelessness, political reasons, whatever you want to call it. And so when you leave yourself open to stuff like that, and a country like the US that likes to do big brother for everybody, comes and then shines eye on your matter, whatever comes after that, you have to deal with it. What you didn't deal with before, you're dealing with something that might be an escalation. And of course, I understand people's concern. There's a precedent that, whenever the US intervenes, sometimes or many times they make things even worse. Whichever way, the ultimate goal is for these killings to come to an end. I would much rather the Nigerian government step up to their responsibility of protecting its citizens, than waiting for an external party to, get involved, whether it is from the east or from the west. Neither would do such a thing for you for free, and I'm putting free in air quotes.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a bit of concern too, because nobody wants. I don't want to say nobody, but for most of us, I think I speak for the majority when I say we don't want this violence, especially when it's targeted. It's some kind of recurring thing, especially in the Northeast, and even in some parts, Muslims too are being targeted in those regions, right? Not just Christians. So
Yeah.
it's essentially a plague. And a concern for the average person is like, why does the US want to intervene like right now, today? Like this hasn't happened forever. Is there some kind of data showing that this has increased over time, or is this the same, or has it reduced over time with this new administration? It's not something that I can actually put my hands to right now, because I haven't been able to find any such data. But it's just curious that for some reason now Donald Trump thinks this is the time to bring this up as a topic.
It's sad that we don't have the data, because this is not like the kind of thing you actually want to be going out into the field to collect data on. It's such a difficult thing to do, because whoever is going to collect data is going to be putting themselves at risk. And also the narrative coming from some corners of the Nigerian, I wouldn't say government, but maybe political establishment, is that this is a both sides thing, that is not religious in nature. And I just want to say that everyone in Nigeria knows that that is absolutely not true. Yes, there are Muslims being killed, but there is a disproportionate number of Christians being killed compared to Muslims being killed. Many times the Muslims that are being killed are basically collateral damage for these people. And sometimes the reason Muslims do get killed in these cases is where the target is not in a religious nature, but maybe they are going for like suspected natural resources under the ground or farmland or land grabbing or anything like that. But to make the claim, because I remember seeing some pundits on some, I don't know what capacity he has, but he was making the claim that it was some sort of like a 50-50 thing. It's absolutely not true.
Yeah, that's far from the case here. We know it's
Exactly.
overwhelmingly more Christians that are the collateral damage of this conflict. I
It's not
don't even
even,
think that it's not
I
a
won't call it
conflict.
collateral damage.
It's
I
just
won't call it
a
collateral damage because they are actually being targeted. These domestic terrorists, bandits, whatever you want to call them, they go to churches on Sunday morning where they know Christians will gather to worship. They go to schools where they know that, I think, unfortunately, the stereotype persists, but there is strong truth to it, where they know that there would be more kids in school who are more Christian than, Muslim. They target communities where they know that people are more Christian or whatever. So, the whatever idea that this is some sort of 50-50 thing, again, nobody should take such a claim seriously. It sounds like a cover-up.
yeah. I mean, for data as well, I think it's fair to say there's always ways to try and get like those numbers. If you think about Sudan, like we have rounded or estimated figures. If you think about Gaza, we also have some numbers. So I think it will be beneficial. It's a sad thing to try and talk about data about, right? Because it's people getting killed, just like minding their own business and just getting terrorized, basically, because this is an act of terrorism, if we're being honest. And so but it's something that we as a people should try harder to get data on. Something that doesn't require a lot of data
before we even get data, before we move on to the next topic, but I mean, data is not the important thing. It's peace that's the important thing. Because
absolutely.
Exactly. So, I mean, I understand that the usefulness of data, but ultimately, data is useless if we don't have peace. Data is useless if we don't have, some form of justice. Data is useless if these criminals are brought to book, So that's it.
Right. Granted, 100%. I feel like I don't need to segue the way I wanted to anymore. I feel like we should just talk about how increasingly, Adobe prices are going up and people are canceling subscriptions left, right, and center. And for the most part, the most popular tools in their suite are usually like Photoshop, Illustrator. I think After Effects is popular, but it's more niche. And Premiere is also popular, but it has firm competition in DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro. But the Photos and Illustrator suites have kind of had the upper hand for the longest time up until Affinity came along. And then Canva came out of nowhere and acquired Affinity, and people started getting nervous, like what's going to happen with this software? Is it going to go to like a subscription-based model like Canva's products? And at some point, they even took their desktop applications offline off the internet. You couldn't upgrade, you couldn't download new versions. And out of nowhere, recently they announced that, hey, okay, here's what we've been working on. The entire suite is now one application and it's free of charge. And you don't have to pay anything. It's yours. You're going to get perpetual updates, the perpetual license. And it was something that is free. And I played around with it a little bit. And something that powerful and intuitive. There's still a lot of skepticism from the community about when something is free, it means you're the product.
Yeah.
What's your thought on that?
I mean, I quit Adobe cold turkey. I think in the transition from CS6, Creative Suite 6 to Creative Cloud. And of course, like a lot of creatives got started using pirated copies of Adobe software. The cop-out I used to use is I would use the previous year's version. So I would I'm not taking their current version, I'm using the previous. Anyway, that aside, I also bought Affinity Designer and Photo 1.5, and I've been using that, and it was more than sufficient replacement. I would say more than. It was a adequate sufficient replacement for Photoshop and Illustrator. I don't really use Illustrator that much, but whenever I want to do something better, I do it in design. So they took it off, they brought it back, said it's free. I still have that skepticism, especially for something that people are willing to pay for.
Right.
And this is not this is not entry level software. This is not like your CapCut type software. This is pro level software. This has, I'd say like 90% of the tools and functionality that exist in the equivalent Adobe software, Photoshop and Illustrator and InDesign. And by the time they go on and do further updates, it'll probably be parity with Adobe software. I've seen a lot of like speculation as to what the catch is, and basically what everyone has arrived at is that Canva is one that has, a business. They have a subscription model. They have their AI tools, and they're trying to sell that also. And they're trying to use this A to lure people from Adobe, and B to sell their own Canva services. I still don't think that will transition, because there's also this, would I call it a gap between the creative professionals and the type of tools they use, and then the type of people who would use Canva. The intersection of people who would use both is quite tiny. Like, I mean, again, this is not actual data gathering or anything, but just from my own observation and from my own usage and from my own like interaction with other creative pros, it's quite tiny. So it still gives me a lot of skepticism. I'm yet to try it. I'm still using 1.5. I will try it eventually. I'm expecting that there shouldn't be that much of a learning curve from the Affinity version 1.5 to this new 3.0.
Oh, interesting stuff. I mean, I have played around with it just a little bit. I haven't done any major project in it. But to your point, it is such a powerful tool. It's an entire suite, right? And now that it put, versions of Photo, Illustrator, InDesign inside of one application, and they are trying to upsell Canva AI. They put it there as like a button where if you're subscribed, you can get Canva AI to do stuff within the application.
Yeah.
But it's just and it allows you to also customize the workspace. So you don't only have like design tools and illustration tools. If you're somebody who dabbles a lot in both on a single project, you can create your own workspace and mix and match. It's just such a powerful tool. Like this, it doesn't make sense that it's free. And so if they're gonna say our only idea is to try and upsell you on Canva AI, well, good luck to them. But I feel like at the end of the day, something is going to change. Like, it's just too good to be true. And usually, when it's too good to be true, it usually is.
I've tried to look at like other software or creative tools, or any software basically that has that type of model. The only thing that comes to mind is Apple and their own creative, or don't let me even say creative, their own like additional software, things like GarageBand. GarageBand is a pretty powerful tool. Even things like what do you call it now? Their office tools. But office tools are relatively because you can find office tools for free, even Libre Desktop and things like that.
Yeah, even with Google Docs and stuff.
Even Google Docs. So like that's a case of like a company offering a relatively powerful tool backed by the parent company, and they are not necessarily selling that tool. But Apple's incentive sounds a lot bigger. They're trying to sell you devices.
Hardware.
Exactly. They're trying to sell you hardware, and Apple makes a huge profit on their hardware. So with Canva, I'm like, what is Canva? Like, I mean, I can use Affinity and then not even touch Canva at all. I don't remember last time I even touched Canva for anything. So,
well, Canva is, especially because you do a lot of artistic illustrations and you draw your own work. The people I find who use Canva the most are like influencers. It's priceless for them. Even the free tier, because you can make carousels. It has templates for literally anything. And if you're doing a presentation, like I've had times where I have a couple of meetings with clients, and the first thing I think about is not even Keynote or PowerPoint. It's Canva, because they have like way more templates. Yeah. And I just have to once you have your data, just plug it in, you're good. And I think that's where Canva's strength is they know their target market. But the target market for Affinity Suite is just a bunch of like designers who either have, the logos or brand assets they want to design, or even photo editors who are doing brand work, because there's no Lightroom alternative. right now that is as robust as Adobe Lightroom. Sure, there's Capture One, but Capture One doesn't necessarily have the traction that Adobe Lightroom has. And Capture One as a company too, they have their own quirks that kind of like repel customers for to a certain extent. And so it's not like they're the ideal replacement for Adobe in that sense. But in any case, one person that's never getting replaced is Michael Jackson, and the trailer for his film recently dropped, starring his nephew, Jafar Jackson. You saw it?
Oh, so that's who that was. I mean, I was, when I heard or read that, they were making a biopic, I was like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. And I was curious who they were going to cast as Michael. At first, I even thought it was going to be like one of these documentaries where they use like clips from, the
Yeah.
past. But then it's a biopic, which is like, it's an acted story, like the Steve Jobs one.
It is the track list, like the list of like the cast and the writers is so stacked, right? So like Antoine Fuqua is directing it, right? And so everybody knows
What else?
Training Day with
What else
Denzel
is it?
Washington.
Oh,
Training
okay,
Day.
okay.
So he finally brought the Academy Awards home with Denzel. He did Tears of the Sun. He did The Equalizer, the first one, the second one, the third one. He did Magnificent Seven. So quite a few. Like his resume is pretty good, and casting the son of Jermaine Jackson, who was part of the the Jackson Five himself, and then the writer wrote of the writer of this film. He wrote Gladiator, The Aviator. He wrote Skyfall. Like it's so stacked. It's like this film it better
if you're
it
going,
better
to
cook.
make a Michael Jackson biopic, you have to do it like with the best set of people. I think it's Universal that's doing it. I don't know if Universal Music Group are the owners or the current owners of the rights to Michael's music. I would assume
Very likely somewhere between UMG and Sony, right? Because I feel like there's a lot of Sony in there
Oh
too.
yeah, that's true. What's this Sony that owned his? Anyway, these deals, they'll figure it out. They'll figure out how to do the music part, the movie part, the distribution part, and their cut. But the trailer looks really nice. I hope the movie is. But I don't know if, like, I wonder why now is the time they are releasing it, because the Michael Jackson fandom has kind of like tapered. Like everyone has a nostalgic thought of who he was, how great he was, how great his music was. But I think like this would have been great, especially for millennials and older. I think this would have been like great to have come out maybe like 10 years ago, as opposed to now. I mean, I still hope it does play well, but I'm just wondering about like the timing of its release.
Honestly, to your point, I think it's giving a bit of Nintendo, because if you think about it this way, Nintendo's major clientele, I would say, is still kind of like millennials, because millennials grew up on the handhelds, got the consoles as kids, and then now they're old enough to afford the newer, more expensive consoles. However, the games are still so accessible that millennials are going to introduce the next generation, which is their kids, to these games, right? And so on the Michael side of things, it's like we grew up on Michael Jackson. It was like the greatest of all time, but there's a bunch of Gen Zers and Gen Alphas who don't know much about this guy. So is there a chance to like maybe be quote unquote indoctrinated? I was gonna say indoctrinated because I feel like once you go Michael, you never go back, right? It's like you're like, who is this guy?
It's funny because like his music, his artistry is what I would refer to as transgenerational. I mean, his first album, I think Off the Wall, came out in what, 70s, 80s?
I think it was the late 70s, yeah.
So for those of us who we were born into a world where Michael Jackson was basically already the biggest pop star, and we started listening to some of the stuff that he released before we were born. And then we listened to all that stuff up until his passing, and even the posthumous records as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly, okay. So to your point, Off the Wall came out exactly in '79. So yeah, we were spot on. It was late. It was late '70s, and yeah, Michael Jackson is transgenerational. His music is going to be here for a very, very, very long time. I'm
What?
just excited that we get a chance to see a version of him on screen now, like a story being told by the family and the estate. That's what I like, right? You have the family getting involved, the estate getting involved, and then they have this, this epic writers and director working on the project. I still listen to, Invincible recently, because that album is just so good. It's just so well written. And I mean, I know nobody wants to say R. Kelly's name out loud, but yeah, R. Kelly wrote some songs in like the latter stages with Michael in some of those
Oh,
albums.
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it's good to see that the King of Pop is going to be back on the big screen, and the App Store recently got like a web version. It was Everyone's excited about it. It's not a big deal because sure the App Store has been around the web, but it's been janky and it's just like really meh. Like you can't really use it for anything. You can't even download an app with it. You can just preview an app, and it always urges you to open the App Store on the device that you're on, right? So
Yeah,
if
as
you're
you
on
should.
like stuff, kind of like as it should, I guess. But the thing is, the new version that launched on the App Store, I think you can initiate a download from the web if you're logged in, and it goes to your device.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what I haven't tried that, but I heard that's what it does.
So I just thought like there was a visual refresh, and then that they were trying to like replicate what it is on the native app store on whichever device on the web, because before you couldn't go straight to like the app store or an app store homepage.
Yeah.
Only when you click the link, maybe from a third party app, and then you go to that app store page to just see details about the app, and you really couldn't take any action on that page. So I've looked at it, the visual refresh, it has the menu on the side, you can search for app, you can see the app store stories and articles and all that. But other than that, and I think maybe like the screenshots are a bit bigger, the icons are a bit bigger and all that.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
take it back. I'm playing around with it right now. I'm trying to see if I can download an app to the phone directly, but the only option here is view in the App Store. So even if you're viewing an iPhone app, it says view in the Mac App Store, and then you have to open it in the App Store. It doesn't necessarily let you download to device. So yeah, that kind of still sucks.
yeah.
I don't know what I
It
sucks.
sucks.
It's just a facelift, pretty much.
Yeah,
It looks
yeah,
different now.
yeah.
And something else that's getting different, it's changing for a little bit, the Grammys. I don't think they really like the fact that, Beyonce won Best Country Album. So they're like, you know what? Let's split this award into two. Let's have traditional country and then let's have contemporary country. I just think it's like the silliest thing ever.
Maybe a better transition would have been from MJ to Grammys, but anyway,
Yeah.
let, let's not be under the illusion that music isn't split culturally, right?
Or even
Um,
politicized for that matter, but go ahead.
yeah, I wouldn't even like the politicization is a very new thing. It's this, thing we've had over the past maybe decade or so where everybody is so beholden to identity politics, political ideology, political, identifying with one end of political spectrum or the other, which I feel is just ridiculous and asinine. And anybody with with above average intelligence should not be doing at this point. Like especially now that you have more than enough information to peer behind the curtain and realize that this thing is not beneficial. Anyway, so music is indeed cultural. Like if I told you, imagine an Afrobeat artist, you're probably going to imagine a Nigerian, right? Or someone, that looks African, let's say a black person, basically. If I told you, imagine a K-pop artist, you're going to imagine a Korean, someone that looks Asian. If I told you, imagine, a punk rock artist, you're going to imagine, some, young white dude with the grunge outfit and all that. So like, it's not a bad thing for different cultures, ethnicities to have their own expressions of
To be
music.
associated
Yes, to be associated with. And it's also not a bad thing for people to like music of a culture or an ethnicity that's different from theirs and choose to make that type of music. Those are not bad things. That's just artistic expression. That's the beauty of the variety of the and how like infinite creativity is. So Beyonce choosing to make a country album and that album being successful, whether it is the success is based on the back of our existing popularity or it is successful because it actually is, like meritoriously a good country music album, irrespective of who made it. That is left to the listening audience to decide. I don't know why the Grammy would do it. We've had people, like for instance, now you typically think of black people for hip hop, but you've had white people get nominated for hip hop categories and things like that.
And they won too, right? So, but there was no whistleblowing when that happened.
One challenge I've had with Grammys over the past over the past decade or so is that they've tended to lean more into popularity as opposed to like artistic merit and musicality and artistry. And I've noticed that trend, and I think that might be what some people are also noticing and trying to like kick back against by maybe not being happy that someone like Beyonce is, Shabuzi is also in the country category, right?
Yep.
So,
if
this if this thing is low key being fueled by some racial or ethnic tension, I shame on anyone who's pushing that narrative from any side. But I don't know, like, are you creating a new genre by splitting it? Are you trying to segregate by, ethnicity? I don't know.
It's a controversial take for sure, but with how much information we're bombarded with every millisecond, I'm pretty sure in 2 years people are going to completely forget about this and move on with their lives. But right now, in the moment, it's just like, so contemporary, I wonder who's going to be winning it, and traditional, some, I guess the obvious discrepancy is it's going to be so apparent when a certain type of person who looks a certain type of way is the only person who wins traditional going forward and contemporary going forward.
Yeah,
contemporary might still be open because if you have like people who are like Latino and like now say they want to make country music, right? And it's like, oh, they won contemporary this year, and then and it's like everybody else's award is contemporary, but yours is traditional every single time. We know who you are, But anyway, it's worth looking at. The data will give us the facts going forward, if anything.
I mean, the best way to actually judge is the sound, right? Like
the sound,
Forget who is making it. If something does sound like whatever you want to call traditional country, I guess maybe what they're referring to as contemporary country is country that is mixed with a bit of pop, But other than that,
that's if you're giving them the benefit of the doubt, though, because some might argue, but some might argue that if it's contemporary, it's kind of the same way they use urban to describe African American people, They say, urban. So, time would tell. I think that's a good place to wrap it. This has been Backyard Conversations. You got anything you want to say to the people on the way out?
Nope. God bless
everybody. I guess. Stay blessed, everyone. Yes. Stay safe. You know how it is. And thank you for listening. It's Backyard Conversations. We're out.